Welcome to Mythos AI, your source for Cliff's Notes on complex subjects. Join Anna and Phil for yet another engaging conversation.
So today, we're setting off on a deep dive into the life and work of Sergey Brin. He's the mind behind Google, right? And a pretty major player in the whole world of AI.
Definitely a major player.
We're going to unpack his journey for our listeners, starting with, his early life and going all the way to the impact he's had, all with this excerpt you've got from Sergey Brin, the innovator behind Google, and AIvisionary.pdf.
Okay, so to really grasp Brin, you have to start with his upbringing. Born in Moscow, 1973, to a Jewish family. It was an interesting time, intellectually stimulating at home, but also a lot of socio-political complexities going on at the time.
And his parents, they were?
His father was a mathematician.
Right, and his mother, a NASA researcher.
Yeah.
So you could see how that background really...
It really sets the stage for a future in STEM. Absolutely.
Right. It's almost a recipe.
Yep.
And then the decision to emigrate to the U.S. in '79. Huge, right?
Huge. Driven by that desire for, opportunity, freedom. That move definitely shaped his worldview.
Exposing him to, the U.S., a very technologically advanced nation, especially back then.
Oh, absolutely. It all played a big part in his path. It's fascinating when you think about it, that background, how it fostered that early love for science, and how it all led to his later work. It makes you wonder.
It makes you wonder. So from there, he ends up studying computer science, mathematics at the University of Maryland. Then goes for his PhD at Stanford. It almost feels, inevitable that he'd end up in Silicon Valley.
It does, doesn't it? And Stanford, that's crucial because that's where he meets Larry Page, future Google co-founder. But what's really interesting is this isn't just, bumping into each other in the hallway. They had a shared fascination.
A shared problem they wanted to solve.
Exactly. How to organize this. The internet was a very different place then in terms of the sheer volume of information, how to organize all that. That was their driving force.
Right, because back in the mid-90s, going online, it was a whole different experience.
Oh, completely. Finding anything useful back then. Well, it was nothing like the seamless experience we have today. Early search engines. Clunky. Often useless. You'd get results that had nothing to do with what you were looking for. Brin and Page, they saw a way to change that.
Enter the PageRank algorithm.
Exactly.
Now, I think it's important for our listeners. It's one thing to know the name, right?
Right.
But to really grasp what it meant, why it was so significant.
PageRank, it was this completely new way of looking at how you rank web pages. It wasn't just about keywords anymore. PageRank actually looked at the structure of the web itself.
The idea being that a link from one page to another, that's like a vote of confidence.
Exactly, like a vote. But here's the thing. Not all votes are created equal. A link from, let's say, a university's website or a government site that carries a lot more weight than a link from some random blog.
Right. Makes sense.
So PageRank, it analyzes how many links are pointing to a page, but also the quality of those links. And from that, it figures out how important a page really is, the authority of that page.
It's kind of like, imagine a network of cities, right? The more roads that lead to a city and the more important those roads are, the bigger that city becomes in the network.
That's a great analogy. And it's not just the analogy, it's that they found a way to actually do it mathematically, to take this messy thing, the web, and make sense of it. They saw that even though it seemed random, there was a structure there, something you could analyze.
So they had this amazing algorithm, this breakthrough, but it was still, an academic exercise at that point. What they did next, that's the real story. How'd they go from concept to company?
That happens in 1998. Brin and Page, they officially launched Google. And where's their headquarters? A rented garage.
Classics.
Right. Menlo Park, California. You couldn't write a more quintessential startup story.
It's like a movie.
Yeah.
So Brin becomes the president of technology.
Yeah.
He takes this vision, this algorithm, and has to actually build it.
And he was crucial in those early days.
I imagine he was very hands-on, very technical.
Oh, absolutely. His technical expertise, it was essential. But it wasn't just that. It was his leadership, his whole approach to innovation that made Google what it is.
What do you mean?
He created a culture of experimentation, this openness, like their famous 20% time policy, where engineers could work on their own projects.
Right. They could dedicate a chunk of their time to something not on their official to-do list.
Precisely. And that came from Brin. It wasn't about being nice, it was strategic. He knew that in tech, to stay ahead, you have to encourage that creativity, give people the space to explore. And look what happened. AdSense, Google News.
Those came from that 20% time.
Yep. Just goes to show you that core principle of Brin's. Unleash creativity and who knows what you'll get. It's a powerful lesson.
And look at them now. Google's reach, it's way beyond just search.
Yeah.
I mean, Google Maps, Gmail, these are things we use every day.
Absolutely.
Brin's fingerprints, they're on all of it.
Yeah. You can't overstate his impact on that expansion. He always pushed for a data-driven approach, solving real problems, not just building products for the sake of it.
It's almost like they could see the future, in a way. Google Maps, for example, launching right when more and more people are getting online, starting to connect in new ways. It's like they knew that navigating the real world easily, it was going to be essential.
And these weren't small, safe projects either. Google Books, digitizing millions of books, making knowledge accessible to anyone. Ambitious doesn't even begin to describe it. And you can see Brin's belief there that technology, it can level the playing field. It really shows how Brin wasn't content with, just keeping things running. He was always looking for that next big thing, how to push technology further. And that leads us to, well, what a lot of people consider the next frontier, artificial intelligence. And Brin's impact there, it's huge.
And we're not just talking about adding AI features to existing products. This was about changing Google's whole trajectory.
Right, exactly. Brin saw that AI, it was a completely different way of thinking about technology. A paradigm shift, you could say. And that's where Google X comes in, back in 2010. Later, they renamed it to just X.
The so-called moonshot factory.
Exactly. Moonshot projects. Things that sounded, well, kind of impossible at the time. Not just small improvements, but big leaps forward. Radical ideas.
And some of those moonshots, they actually panned out. I mean, look at self-driving cars. That went from science fiction to, well, driving around on our streets in a pretty short amount of time.
Think about Waymo. Born out of Google's self-driving car project. Brin understood AI wasn't just about making things smarter. It was about tackling these huge fundamental problems, transportation, safety, things that affect millions of people.
It really is amazing when you think about it, how recently self-driving cars seem like, well, like a pipe dream. Was there any pushback internally on that, or was everyone at Google immediately on board?
Yeah.
It's hard to know exactly what went on behind closed doors, but one thing is for sure. Brin, he was a champion for this from the very beginning. He saw what it could mean. Fewer accidents, better mobility for people. A long-term vision, definitely, and not without its skeptics.
And then there's Google Glass, another one of those Google X projects. It didn't quite, take off commercially, but it was an early indicator, a sign of things to come in wearable techs and augmented reality.
For sure. Google Glass, even though it had its issues, it proved that they were willing to experiment, to explore how we interact with technology in completely new ways.
Both self-driving cars, Google Glass, they show how Brin wasn't afraid to think big, to play the long game, using tech to solve those fundamental challenges that we face. But these big, ambitious projects, they needed some serious tech advancements to back them up, especially in AI.
Of course. We're not just talking about engineering problems. These were AI problems at their core. Take self-driving cars. They need incredibly sophisticated AI to, understand the world around them, make decisions in real time. It's high-level stuff.
Right. And this wasn't just about developing AI within Google, right? It was also about recognizing where the real talent was, where the cutting edge was. And that's where the acquisition of DeepMind comes in 2015.
That was a huge move. DeepMind, they were already making waves in the AI world, especially in deep learning.
DeepMind, they're the ones behind AlphaGo, the program that beat a world champion Go player. I remember that making headlines.
Exactly. And as impressive as AlphaGo was, that was really just the beginning for them. Brin saw the bigger picture, bringing in some of the best minds in AI, integrating that into everything Google was doing.
It seems like Brin had this, this knack for spotting those trends early on, the things that would go on to define the future. Machine learning, deep learning, neural networks. These weren't just buzzwords for him. He saw the potential there.
Absolutely. And those things, they're not just abstract concepts. They're what power everything we've been talking about. Self-driving cars, AlphaGo, all of it shows you how far ahead Brin was thinking.
So not just about making things a little bit better, he was thinking about how AI could reshape so many parts of our lives.
And DeepMind, they weren't satisfied with just focusing on what we call narrow AI, systems that can only do one specific thing. They were after something bigger, general purpose AI. Machines that can learn and adapt like we do.
The dream of true AI.
Exactly. And that brings us to another crucial part of Brin's legacy, his role in the restructuring of Google, the creation of Alphabet Inc. It wasn't just a business decision. It reflects how his thinking about the future of technology was evolving.
So we've talked about Brin leading this charge toward Google becoming this AI powerhouse.
Mm.
But then, 2015, there's a big shift. Google gets restructured, right? Alphabet Inc. is born. What was behind that?
Creating Alphabet, it was a strategic move, no question. Google was growing, getting into so many different things.
Is that getting big?
Huge. So Alphabet, it becomes this parent company. Google, it's a subsidiary now, alongside these other ventures. They called them other bets.
Right, things like life sciences, self-driving cars, even drone delivery, a whole mix.
Exactly. And this restructuring, it lets Brin take a step back from the day-to-day at Google. Now he can focus on those long-term projects, the moonshots, within Alphabet.
So he becomes Alphabet's president.
Yeah.
That's a pretty clear signal, right? This isn't just some hands-off thing.
Not at all. And, it makes you think, what made Brin shift gears like that? Was it purely a business move? Or was there something more to it?
This does make you wonder.
I mean, yeah, there were business advantages for sure, but I think it also reflects this desire to tackle bigger and bigger problems, to use technology to really make a difference.
And you can see that in Alphabet's portfolio. Verily, for instance, taking on healthcare challenges.
Waymo pushing forward with autonomous vehicles, and of course X still out there exploring those radical new ideas.
It's like Brin's belief in technology, it never wavered. If anything, it got stronger. But here's the thing. Alongside that belief, there's also this awareness of the potential downsides, especially with AI, the ethical side of things.
Absolutely. Brin recognized early on that AI is powerful, and with great power comes great responsibility, right? He knew that if you don't build AI ethically, things could go very wrong.
So it wasn't enough to just build the most advanced systems. Those systems had to be aligned with human values. They had to be used for good. How did that play out, practically speaking, in his work at Alphabet?
Well, he spoke out about it a lot, used his platform to advocate for responsible AI development, really urged the tech community to think about these issues.
And not just rush ahead blindly?
Exactly. And then his decision to step down as Alphabet president in 2019, while still staying on the board, still a shareholder, that was significant too. It gave him more space to focus on these issues.
To put his energy where his mouth was, so to speak.
Exactly. And his philanthropy reflects that too. The Brin Wojcicki Foundation, focusing on things like Parkinson's research.
Which hits close to home for him, given his family history.
Right. But also climate change, human rights, all these areas where technology can be a part of the solution.
It's a pretty remarkable legacy. Brin, this brilliant tech mind, but also this entrepreneur, this advocate. It's a good reminder for all of us. Technological progress, it has to be about more than just what's possible. We have to think about the consequences, too.
And the story isn't over yet. He might not be running Alphabet day-to-day anymore, but Brin's out there, still thinking about the big picture, the big challenges. It makes you wonder, what's next? What problem is he going to tackle next? That's something to think about as we move into this, this increasingly AI-driven world.
Thanks for listening to Mythos AI. Stay tuned for more concise insights. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes.